Hey everybody, welcome to another special Crack-A-Pack on the Mana Leak. I'm John as always. So you saw the last special Crack-A-Pack where we cracked one of the worst sets of Magic ever, Homelands. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with this sort of Crack-A-Pack special series. I knew I wanted to just open random old packs, but I think I'm going to actually make it into a bit of a challenge. I think I'm going to attempt to open one of every pack of every set ever. That's going to be a bit of a challenge when we get back to alpha, beta, unlimited, stuff like that. That may be a long in the future goal for this channel, but we're going to try to get through one of each pack that we can get our hands on anyways. This won't be a scheduled series. This won't be every week. This won't be every other week. It will be whenever I can get my hands on the packs, in combination with whenever there's sort of a lull in the sets, as the sets start to get kind of stale, things like that. But just keep your eyes peeled. These will pop up probably on Mondays or on Thursdays usually, maybe on Fridays. But yeah, subscribe to the channel so you know when they're going to come in. But today we've got a pack of Conspiracy. So Conspiracy was a set that came out last summer, actually. If you weren't around for it, it was a non-standard format. The vast majority of the cards were reprints from the history of Magic, but there were some new cards as well. And it was really interesting. It was a format that was designed to be drafted only, and it was designed to be drafted and then played multiplayer. So you had 8 people draft these cards, and then they split into 2 groups of 4 and played just free-for-all multiplayer. It was really interesting. The cards really sort of focused on multiplayer interactions. There were a set of conspiracy cards that actually weren't in your deck but affected the game. It was a really fun format. I only got a chance to draft it once, unfortunately. My local game store at the time was on its way into closing, and so the product just stopped flowing. But I did get to do it once. It was really fun. I'd love to do it again if I could get my hands on a box and 8 people who wanted to do it. But we're going to open this pack of Conspiracy and see what we've got. Alright, first up we've got Grixis Illusionist. It is a single blue for a 1/1. It's a human wizard, and it says tap. Target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice until end of turn. So, kind of interesting, not necessarily the most useful. You could, of course, use this to fix your mana, basically. But I'd prefer to fix my mana just by building my mana base properly, or maybe using some sort of green fetch card. I don't necessarily want to be playing a 1/1 for 1 to fix my mana. Probably not the card that I would pick. But of course, in a multiplayer format, you can play these kind of wonkier cards and get away with it because there's politics happening, you're convincing people to attack other people, and stuff like that. Next up, we have Custodio Squire. This is a 4 and a white for a 3/3. That has flying, and it has Will of the Council. This is one of the mechanics made for Conspiracy. So when Custodio Squire enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for an artifact, creature, or enchantment card in your graveyard. Return each card with the most votes or tied for the most votes to your hand. So what happens here is in your graveyard, you're going to have an artifact, a creature, or an enchantment, or some combination of those. You're going to vote for one that you want back. And then the other 3 players, they're going to vote for which one they want you to get back. Now, if you only have one, then that's the one you're going to get back. That's the only one they can vote for. If you have multiples, it gets kind of interesting in a 4-person group, because, of course, if you choose one, the next player chooses the same one. If the other 2 players choose a different one, you're going to get 2 back. So the players at the table really need to think about kind of what the outcome of this vote is going to be, and they're going to talk amongst themselves and etc. It's one of the really fun aspects of Conspiracy, is all of these votes that happen and the mechanics behind it and the politics and etc. That being said, I don't think this card is that amazing. A 3/3 for 5 is okay. That hopefully is going to return a creature. It's probably not going to return an enchantment or an artifact or anything like that. You're gonna want a creature back. But of course, this does give choice to not just your opponent, but 3 of your opponents, and they're going to choose the thing that's going to give you the least effect, of course. If you can work around this to make sure you get back exactly what you want, yeah, it could be okay, but you're probably not going to get to do that. Next up, we have Brimstone Volley. This is a good old reprint from Innistrad. It's an instant for 2 and a red. Brimstone Volley deals 3 damage to target creature or player. It has Morbid, which means that it deals 5 damage to that creature or player instead if a creature died this turn. Morbid happens. Morbid happens a fair amount. Creatures die in games of Magic all the time, especially in a 4-person multiplayer event. 3 mana for a 3 damage burn spell at instant is fine. It's not Lightning Strike or Searing Spear or any combination of that, but the fact that it can very often be 5 is really, really nice. I'm a fan of Brimstone Volley for sure. Next up, we have Flowstone Blade. This is a single red for an aura. It says enchant creature, pay 1 red. Enchanted creature gets +1/-1 until end of turn. So it doesn't get fire breathing, it gets this Flowstone ability that first appeared, I think, in Tempest or in that block during the Wrath cycle. Not a great card. Not really something I'd want to do. If you start suiting up a creature in Limited, it's going to be a target for removal, and you've got 3 opponents with Hands of Removal. So you're going to make your creatures targets by giving them auras. And if you want to do that, those auras need to be incredible, and this aura is unfortunately just not incredible. Next up, we have Enraged Revolutionary. This is a 2 and a red for a 2/1 that has Dethrone. This is another of the conspiracy mechanics. So Dethrone says that whenever this creature attacks, the player with the most life, or tied for the most life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So politics really comes into play with Dethrone. So if, opponent number 3 has the most life out of all of us, and I attack opponent number 3 with Enraged Revolutionary gets a counter, becomes a 3/2. Not till end of turn, just a counter permanently. And then if I attack them again next turn, it becomes a 4/3. And then if somebody else has the life total, I attack them and it gets bigger. Dethrone can really get out of control. That being said, you're going to make yourself one heck of a target because you're going to be attacking different people all the time. And if you're attacking the whole table, you better hope that you're in a commanding position. This guy's totally okay. I just don't think I'd be first picking him at all. Next up, we have a good old commander staple, Sakura Tribe Elder. This is a 1 and a green for a 1/1. It says sacrifice Sakura Tribe Elder, search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So this is a 2-mana 1/1, which is pretty bad, but the play with this, of course, is you block with it at some point, sack it in response, don't take any damage, plus you ramp yourself a little bit. Totally fine pickup, not a first pick, but totally includable. Next up, we have Unhallowed Pact. This is another Innistrad block card. I think it was Dark Ascension, maybe Avacyn Restored. It's an aura. It says enchant creature. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control. This is kind of cool because it has 2 different modes. You could throw it on your creature, meaning that your creature essentially has regeneration in a different way. Or you could throw it on one of your opponent's creatures and get control of it when it comes back. Ultimately, it's not the best of cards. It's certainly better than Flowstone Blade as far as auras go, but I'd still rather just be playing my own threat than hoping to recur a threat or hoping to steal one of my opponents. Next up, we have Echoing Courage. This is a 1 and a green instant that says target creature and all other creatures with the same name as that creature get +2/+2 until end of turn. Not that big in most limited formats. You maybe sometimes will have 2 creatures that share the same name. Rarely 3, and very rarely any more than that. So ultimately, this card is probably just an expensive, weaker giant growth most of the time, and so that's just not something that I'm really looking forward to. If you could build a tokens deck out of this, of course, a 1/1 flying spirit is called Spirit, and if you have 5 1/1 flying spirits, you hit one of them with this, and each of them gets +2/+2. So in a token deck, this could be fine, but outside of that, it's just a kind of a weak combat trick. Next up, we have Compulsive Research. This is a 2 and a blue. Sorcery. It says target player draws 3 cards, then that player discards 2 cards unless he or she discards a land card. There's a card like this in Dragons of Tarkir right now. I can't think of it. I think it's Mystic Meditation, possibly. But you have to discard a creature, which you probably don't want to do. Discarding a land card? you want to do that. You're going to be doing that anyways after you cast this spell. So this card basically does say draw 2 cards, discard a land. Or sorry, draw 3 cards, discard a land, which is pretty good. I don't have a huge amount of experience, as I said, with Conspiracy, so I don't know how much the sort of blue draw go decks do, how well they do. But if they do okay, this is a great pickup for sure. Next up, we have Core Chant. Core Chant is a 2 and a white instant. It says all damage that would be dealt this turn to target creature you control by a source of your choice is dealt to another target creature instead. So it's the white sort of fog. White doesn't usually fog, they redirect damage. So you can basically say all damage that's going to hit this creature from this specific source is instead dealt to this specific creature. Now that unfortunately gives some windows for blowouts. Your opponent could just kill your creature. Your opponent could, prevent damage. They could do a few different things with this card. Ultimately, I don't really like it. I think it falls into the same sort of category as Fogs or even Channel Harm or things like that we've talked about more recently, where, you kind of have to hope that you're getting hurt and that you're in desperation mode to play this card, and that's not something you want to be building your decks around. You want to make sure that you're getting cards that are good when you're behind, but are also good when you're ahead and when you're stabilized and when you're developing and etc. And this card's only all that good when you're behind, so not something I'm interested in. Next up, we have Marchesa's Infiltrator. This is a 2 and a blue 1/1. It also has Dethrone, so whenever it attacks the player with the most life or tied with the most life, it gets a +1/+1 counter. It says whenever Marchesa's Infiltrator deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it's got the Ophidian ability. You can draw a card if this hits an opponent, if this deals combat damage. It would, of course, be much better if this had unblockable or something like that. You could try to suit it up with something that would do that or give it flying. And if you can, this card becomes really, really good. But, of course, to do that makes you a threat. So you have to balance that, kind of politics part of the game. I'm fairly happy with this card. I like the Ophidian ability. I like the fact that this can get bigger as I attack my opponents. And of course, the Dethrone ability is when you attack. It's not when it deals damage. So it's going to be attacking as a 2/2 when you hit that first player with the most life. So I'd be pretty happy with this card. I don't quite know if I'd first pick it, but I'd be happy to play it. Next up, we have Soulcatcher. Soulcatcher is a 1 and a white 1/1 flyer. Whenever a creature with flying dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Soulcatcher. This seems really, really, really narrow. I don't really think I'd want to play this. It's, it requires you to be very heavy white flyers, blue-white flyers, probably. And not only that, you need your flyers to be dying, and we don't, want cards that are only good when our creatures are dying. So ultimately, I think Soulcatcher is just a complete dud. Next up, we have Lead the Stampede. This is a 2 and a green sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of creature cards from among them and put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in any order. So for 3 mana, you get to look at the top 5 cards, take any number of creatures you want, put them into your hand, and then throw the rest on the bottom. That's okay. If you're digging for your bomb, your win condition, whatever, this could be pretty good. But I think I would want something to look for already rather than taking this early and hoping I get things that I really want to dig for. So not first pickable, I don't think. Our rare is Sulfuric Vortex, 1 red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Sulfuric Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. If a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. This is a cube staple, of course, in mono-red aggro. If you're an aggressive deck in red and you throw this down on turn 3, things can get really bad for your opponent really, really fast. In multiplayer, I think it would be interesting because, of course, each player is going to be getting pinged for 2, and you're going to be the last player to get pinged, so there's going to be attacks happening, and people are going to be losing a lot of life. I think this could be really fun and really chaotic in this format. Now, each pack also has a card that matters for draft or is a conspiracy card or etc. And in this case, we have Lurking Automaton. This is a 5 mana 0/0. So obviously it's going to get counters somewhere. So there was a whole cycle of construct cards that had abilities that happened in the draft portion as opposed to in the game portion. So this says reveal Lurking Automaton as you draft it. So you're looking in your pack, you pick this card, and you show everybody. You say, hey, I've got this card. And then you note how many cards you've drafted this draft round, including Lurking Automaton. So if this is the first card, it's 1. If this is the 7th card you've taken this pack, it's 7, etc. Lurking Automaton enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the highest number you noted for cards named Lurking Automaton. That second part of that sentence matters if you draft multiples of these. Basically, you take the largest number out of each of these that you drafted. Odds are you're probably only going to get just 1. But this guy's really interesting. He really makes the draft kind of a gamble, because if you open this pick 1, you probably don't want it because it's a 5 mana 1/1. And so you pass it to your opponent, or to your left, or to your right, to a potential opponent. For that person, it's a 5 mana 2/2, and then it's a 5 mana 3/3, and then it's a 5 mana 4/4, and then it's a 5 mana 5/5. And somebody at some point has to pull the trigger and say, okay, I'm willing to pay 5 mana for a 5/5, or a 7/7, or whatnot. Maybe it gets around the table, maybe it becomes a 5 mana 15/15, but I doubt it. But yeah, it's a really interesting card. Ultimately, I don't think it's all that good, and obviously, for Crack a Pack, I'm not going to take it first pick. It would be an awful first pick. I would probably look to start picking this up maybe at 6th pick. I don't necessarily know that I want to pay 5 for a 5/5 that has nothing else going on with it. But 5 mana for a 6/6 would be good, and from there on out, I'd be pretty happy taking this, but obviously not first pickable. And we have a Spirit. So our picks are really kind of looking like Sulfuric Vortex, Brimstone Volley. Yeah, let's put both of these down. Marchesa's Enforcer and Compulsive Research. Ultimately, just because I wouldn't necessarily get to play with it all the time, I think I'd probably just take the Sulfuric Vortex. I think it would be really fun to draft a really aggressive red deck and just really throw this down and cause chaos amongst everybody. As I said, you're going to be the last one to get hit with this, so it's going to give you sort of that even better advantage. I just think it could be really fun in the multiplayer format. The blue cards were okay, but not great, and Brimstone Volley would have been good if Sulfuric Vortex wasn't here, but I think I'd take the Vortex and really try to build around it. A low curve, burn aggro red deck, I think. But yeah, that was Conspiracy. Definitely let me know what your pick would have been if you've had some Conspiracy experience. Definitely let me know about it. If you haven't, try to check it out if you can find the product somewhere. It was a really fun format. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know in the comments below. You can also find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's Leek, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've already found me here on YouTube. If you like the videos, make sure you click that little thumbs up icon. Definitely also subscribe to my channel. There's a subscribe button underneath the video and also one in the outro. That'll keep you up to date on all the latest videos as they come out. The Crack a Pack Tuesdays, the Wacky Wednesdays, the Spiky Saturdays, and these Crack a Pack specials as they happen. As I said, I'm going to be trying to open one of each pack in Magic's history. It's going to take a long time. But yeah, these will be popping up every now and then, as I said, not fully scheduled, but you'll want to subscribe to make sure that you get to see these when these come out. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.